Good afternoon from Yami BTV, wishing you all well, of course. I'm going to try not to offend anyone during the course of this video. After all, it's just my opinion, of course, and a subject that you've been asking me to do for quite some time that I feel to do today. And the question that you're asking me, we also touch on the so-called moral codes used by yesteryear's so-called gangsters, that things you're allowed to say, things you're not allowed to say, and you swore by the rules set out in those so-called rules to be a real gangster, so to speak, even though in later life we know it was a load of shit. I'll explain why at the end. But you're asking me, did Freddy, what Freddy Foreman said in later life by confessing to those murders from back in the day, did it stop the Kray twins from getting parole? Now, we go back to the beginning a little bit, right? And the real consensus of some of the things I heard in prison and since being out as well. Now, when the Kray twins went on trial, they had a few co-defendants, 5 or 6, right, that were implicated in various crimes or some of the crimes that the Kray twins were going on trial for. The real consensus is that they were banged to rights, red-handed, that if they went guilty, because they knew that they were going to get found guilty, then everybody else would walk out the courtroom a free person, right? Watched, witnessed by the whole public as well as the families surrounding the co-accused. And Freddy Forman was in there somewhere, if I remember rightly, and got found not guilty. There's even a suggestion that the police went down to see Freddy because of the things that were said during the trial whilst he was down in the cell. I cannot confirm that. And it is on record that Frankie Fraser said that the day Freddy Forman did that by confessing, he breached the rules of the moral code of being a gangster by saying that he believes that it stopped the Krays from getting parole, right? Now, you could look at it in different ways, because in the beginning of time, the Krays employed Freddy Foreman to get bodies out of boots of cars, basically pay him to do dirty work for them, right? Now, Freddy Forman would admits freely that in his criminal career, he'd done things that he suggests and other people suggest as well, and he gets paid for it, but he wanted to remain anonymous and do his criminal work quietly, silently, without his name getting dragged into it. But it did, because when the Krays got arrested and others, his name got mentioned in it. So he got dragged into it through other people's fault, dare we say. Just saying, right? So did Fred feel a little bit hard done by that they got where they were kind of celebrity gangsters and like the limelight, the Kray twins? That really can't be denied. But Freddy Foreman, by what he said, stopping them from getting out, the political stuff with the Krays, Lord Booth, etc. There were other things as well. Even though, if it's true to say, if they were arrested for those crimes today, they would have got back out. Let's have it right. They're releasing people for worse murders now who do lesser time, that are notorious in ways more than the Krays, because eras of criminals moved on from that and it became more violent, more shootings, a lot of people doing what they were, a selected group of criminals were doing at that time, right? Allegedly. But Freddy Foreman maybe felt hard done by in Frankie Fraser saying that he breached the rules. The only take that I can give on this, right, is that when Frankie Fraser went up there and said that about Freddy Foreman, then would it not be the same as him doing it himself? Because it could be that if you go up and let the whole world know, so to speak, or the platforms that he went up and said it on, wouldn't it be that then if it was a breach of rules that Freddy Foreman had done, that you would be half putting out a contract to hit out of Freddy Foreman by letting everyone know that? So has he done the same thing that Freddy Foreman did in that way? But it's a complicated one. And the moral code, we know that a lot of those ex-gangsters, everybody, there's always bickering and falling outs with each other. And it's no different today that one party says it was this, another says it was that, and others say it was a load of shit and stop lying, and then others say, well, you weren't all that either as well. That's the kind of life and the things that it brings. But in reality, Freddie Foreman, in my view, could not be to blame for the Krays not getting out. We could easily say, but they weren't getting out anyway, but it would have been no excuse. But if you played by the rules of the moral codes and the standards, then Freddie Foreman would believe that he would have never got, his name would have never got called, and he would have never been arrested if it wasn't because of their behaviour that led to them blatantly going and doing things that hotted him and brought the heat on him. So, no, I think that either way, that the so-called moral codes would have been breached everywhere. But I think the one person that probably has the edge on all this, who spoke with great morality and integrity about that life and let his feelings be known when he came out and spoke about it. He said what he thought about the Krays and all that and broke it down. So one rule for one and one rule for all. But I believe that Freddie Foreman was right in what he did.